Okay, we're back with Joe Rogan. He's probing my butt to try to ask me all these questions about my experiences with hallucinogenics because I'm special. You know, anybody that's on the Joe Rogan show is special. So whatever experiences you guys that aren't ever going to be on the Joe Rogan show have had are really are irrelevant. Only the special people that end up on the Joe Rogan show, like myself. Joe Rogan, you still there? Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, we're still going. Okay, all right. So anyway, so so let me just qualify myself and where I come from here. So when my first LSD experience, I was 15 years old. And I was just like I'd been playing bass for about a year, and I was already playing Anesthesia, Cliff Burton's solo Anesthesia solos, and Megadeth and Black Sabbath and Nuclear Assault. I was learning all these songs on the bass. I was shredding, and my friend played guitar, and he was like at the same level of talent as me. And so we were both just like, fuck yeah. And we're going to start a band and all this shit, right? We smoked weed at the time, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so then one day my friend, my guitar player friend, we were going to start a band and everything. We had it all going on, man. It was fucking going to happen, man. We were going to take over the fucking world. Our band was going to be called Black Mass. That was the idea for our band name. And that motherfucker, he could pull some badass fucking riffs, dude. Like, he would just show me these riffs. It's like, fuck, this is heavy. It's like High on Fire riffs, man. But only back in the fucking, what was that? The 80s. I mean, he's pulling out fucking badass High on Fire riffs, way ahead of his time, kind of bro. Super long fucking hair. We were both 15. I was already shredding on fucking Cliff Burton bass solos and shit. We were gonna take over the world. So, anyways, one day he tells me he's going to score a sheet of liquid acid, and I'm like, what? What the fuck? And then he's telling me how he's already done some and it's fucking awesome, and I need to try some LSD, and if I want to go with him to go score this sheet of liquid acid. So I'm like, okay, I guess, yeah. Well, I mean, why not? I guess, yeah. So we went downtown. He got the vial. It was in like a food color. It looked like those little things that food coloring is in. But it was like clear liquid. And so he put a couple drops on my hand, like right there in between my thumb and my forefinger, right there. Well, first he did his. He's like, this is how you do it. And he dropped a couple drops on that part of his hand right there, and then he licked it like that. And then he took my hand and I opened it up just like he did, and he put the couple drops, and then I licked it like that. And then we were frying, an hour into it, it's fucking kicking in good, and everything is like a fucking cartoon. It's like I'm stoned, only it's like times 20 or something. Like, everybody looked like some goofy cartoon character, and I'm just sitting there laughing my fucking ass off at everybody, trying to keep my cool because I don't want to draw the cops and shit, like, or whatever. And so we're frying balls, and then we head back to his apartment because his plan is he wanted to sell this LSD. So I'm like, yeah, so we're frying on acid. We get to his apartment, then a third buddy shows up. And so it's me and my guitar buddy and another buddy. And then he takes a couple drops, right? But me and my buddy are already 2.5 hours or 3 hours in. We're starting to peak and this and that. And so then my buddy wants to start getting the hits of acid ready to sell. And so he gets a piece of paper and some scissors. And I'm like, okay. He's like, okay, we're going to cut this piece of paper up into these little squares of paper. Okay. And I'm like, all right. So I'm cutting all these little squares of paper, and they don't even look like squares. They're all fucked up and shit, right? little tiny pieces of paper like that. And so I'm just cutting them, and then I'm tripping out like, wow, this is trippy. And I'm cutting all, and then we're both cutting squares, and then all three of us were cutting until we have this big pile of little tiny squares of pieces of paper, right? And so then we go into the living room with our pile of squares of paper. By this time, me and Dude are peeking, and then he pulls out the Dark Side of the Moon album, slaps the record on the record player. And so Dark Side of the Moon is playing, and then he takes the plastic sleeve that's on the record cover, slaps it on the coffee table, and gets the vial and squeezes like a big puddle of liquid onto the plastic sheet of paper on the coffee table. And then we all start grabbing the little pieces of square paper and dipping them into the puddle of acid, and then setting them over to the side for the hits of acid to sell. And so we're we're peaking on acid, and so we're tripping out. Like, this is like super interesting and intense event taking place in our minds. Like, wow, man. So we're just doing this, we're dipping, and we got this whole pile of these little squares, and we're dipping them into the puddle and setting them over to the side. And we're all just tripping out on it. Like, this is super interesting. Like, this is super wow. This is right. And so we must have did that for like 10, 15 minutes, like just nonstop, just dipping them in the little puddle and setting them off to the side. Not really aware of anything, just having a good time, listening to Pink Floyd and zoning the fuck out, just like dipping these pieces of paper like a conveyor belt worker, just one piece of paper after another after another. And so we're doing this, and we're going to get 100 of them. And so we're doing it for like who knows how long ass time. And so we were all leaned over in this position at the coffee table, dipping our fingers in this puddle of liquid acid, not knowing what the fuck we're doing or what's going on. And I was the first one. Like, I was like, I just felt kind of tired, and I just wanted to stretch my body because we're just sitting in this position this whole time. And so I just leaned back like this and go like, oh, like that, right? And then I opened my eyes, and I'm like, oh my. I mean, once I opened my eyes and I was looking at the ceiling and everything, I was like, oh my God, dude. And so I'm like, fuck, like I am fucking, and I look and I go, you guys, because I looked and they were still in this bent down position like this at the coffee table. Like, they didn't even know what the fuck was going on. And I looked and I saw them that didn't even realize what was happening. And I go, you guys. And when I did that, I went, you guys, and they were like this, and then they went up like that, and as soon as they went up, all three of us at the same time were like, whoa! Like, we were fucked. We were like, everything was breathing, everything was alive, fucking like. Everything was one big living creature. We were just like, everything was just like, fucking. And that was it. We were done. Once we realized how completely fucking blasted we were, that was it. We were like, fuck, okay. And by this time, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, or 1:30 or 2 in the morning. We're like, holy fuck. We're just tripping the fuck out. We're in the bathroom looking in the mirror and fucking just like, fuck, like we were fucking. So what had happened is the LSD had absorbed into our fingers, and we didn't know. We didn't know that every time we were dipping our fingers in that puddle of liquid, that we are getting LSD. And dude, you understand how liquid acid works. You know what I'm talking about. Like, we took an insanely large dose of LSD. Like, you don't take that much LSD unless you're fully prepared for what's coming next, And so anyways, and then there's a whole long story to that, but like the shit that we were, me and the guitar player guy, we were like fry buddies. Like, so we were already had a mental connection, and when you add LSD into the mix, it increases the connection. But when you add a dose like that, we're talking about telepathy. Like we were reading each other's minds and we were hallucinating the same thing. The hallucinations we were seeing were communicating with us telepathically. We could both understand the same, like everything. It was unbelievable. We had encountered like this super fucking crazy black goo alien that had us both like uh uh for lack of a better word, had us both subdued, where we were just under its spell and it was communicating with us and we were touching it and talking to it, and all three of it was like, it was totally insane. The shit that we experienced was off the charts, undescribable shit. And then it got even more insane. Like there was a couple crazy events that were lucky didn't end up really bad and stuff. So, and that was my first time. And then me and my buddy just ended up eating that whole sheet of acid over about a month and a half period of time. So we were basically frying every day for like a month and a half straight. And if you understand the way LSD works, you build a tolerance immediately. Like if you take 2 hits, and that's how much, say it takes 2-3 hits to get you skyrocketed. Well, the next day it's going to take you twice that, so that's 6 hits. Then the following day it's going to take you double that, that's 12 hits. The following day it's going to take you double that, which is 24. So we went on a fucking month and a half long like LSD binge where that's all we did. Anyway, so I've had my share of really, really insane experiences with shit like this, and I've done just about everything you could think of, with the exception of the new shit. Like I'm glad I'm out of this whole scene. 22, it'll be 23 years in November, because if I was in the scene now, I wouldn't last. I would overdose on fentanyl. I'd be dead. If things were back then the way they are now, I wouldn't have survived. I'd have overdosed on fentanyl. I'd be dead. And this trank shit and DMT, like, these things are not to be fucked with. But these people, they think that they're the experts on hallucinogens because they've done DMT. It's like they'll never experience LSD because LSD doesn't even exist anymore. So what do they know about the comparison? On top of that, though, like I said, all hallucinogenics have a common denominator. And the common denominator is the overall general point. And so you can have just as profound experiences on any of these because there's that common denominator. And really what it is like spiritual epiphany, experiencing the unseen world. So anyway, now I'm going to get into my conclusion, my following thing. Okay.